Hello viewers, in the previous session we were discussing about classification of enzymes based on the location and also based on the reaction catalyzed. Now in this session we are going to discuss about factors affecting enzyme activity. When enzyme is performing the conversion of substrate into product, in this activity of enzyme certain factors are going to influence which can enhance or decrease the activity of enzyme. Hence we will discuss those factors which are affecting the enzyme activity. The velocity or rate of enzyme activity is assessed by the rate of change of substrate to product per unit time. In a given time, how many substrate is going to get converted to product is measured and is termed as the rate of enzyme activity. This conversion of substrate into product performed by enzyme is going to be influenced by several factors, and those factors are as below. You can see enzyme reactions is influenced by various factors like concentration of enzyme, concentration of substrate, concentration of product, temperature, pH, and the concentration of inhibitors or presence of inhibitors. So these factors are going to influence the enzyme activity. Either they can influence in the positive or negative manner. That means either they can enhance or decrease the enzyme activity. So let us see each factor's influence in detail, beginning with the concentration of enzyme. So the first one is effect of enzyme, concentration of enzyme activity. Rate of enzyme reaction is directly proportional to the enzyme concentration. Hence, as the enzyme concentration increases, more and more substrate can get converted to product. As the more and more substrate get converted to product, the increase in the product concentration depicted as increased enzyme activity. Hence, you can see in the graph in the x-axis in the below, you can see enzyme concentration. On the y-axis, you can see enzyme activity or velocity of enzyme reaction. If you give a particular value for enzyme concentration like 5, 10, 15, 20 of different concentration values, and the velocity in the product concentration, here also you can put some values as 10, 20, 30, 40 in the y-axis in the velocity side. And if you see put a graph or plot a graph, you will get a graph which is shows the increasing manner. As the concentration of enzyme increases, the velocity also increases. Hence it is directly proportional. Enzyme concentration is directly proportional to the enzyme activity. As concentration increases, velocity or enzyme activity also increases. In the second paragraph, you can see when the velocity of enzyme reaction is measured at various enzyme concentration, keeping all the factors constant. All other factors means temperature, pH, etc. The result is plotted on a graph with velocity on y-axis and enzyme concentration on x-axis. A straight line is obtained. Hence, in this only one factor we are going to vary, that is the enzyme concentration, keeping substrate concentration constant, temperature constant, pH constant, and all other factors constant, and only enzyme concentration as varying factor. So hence it is directly proportional to the enzyme activity. Next we are going to discuss about the effect of substrate concentration. How the concentration of substrate is going to affect the enzyme activity. In this case we are going to keep the concentration of enzyme constant, temperature and pH and other factors constant. Only substrate is going to be varying. When the velocity of enzymatic reaction is measured at various substrate concentration, keeping all other factors constant, and the result is plotted on a graph with the substrate concentration on the x-axis as you can see in the graph, and velocity or enzyme activity on the y-axis. You will get a rectangular hyperbolic curve, and which shows the increase in the rate of the reaction up to certain concentration level, and after that increase in the concentration level will not affect the enzyme activity, it will become constant. Hence the maximum velocity that reaches is called as Vmax. Max means maximum, V means velocity, velocity maximum is given as Vmax, and that will show the constant enzymatic velocity after certain substrate concentration is reached, and half of this Vmax is called as Km. Km means half maximal velocity. What are the velocity you got in the y-axis? Half of that, if you plot the graph, and if you touch it to y-axis to x-axis through the hyperbolic curve, the substrate concentration required to reach the half maximal velocity is called as Km. Next is we are going to discuss about concentration of product. In this product concentration, how it is going to influence enzyme activity is going to be discussed. As the concentration of product increases, enzyme activity decreases in certain enzyme activity reactions. Since the product can interfere with the enzyme substrate binding levels, hence you can see in the x-axis product concentration written as 5, 10, 15 and 20, and the enzyme activity or velocity as 10, 20, 30, 40. So as the concentration of product increases in the x-axis, the y-axis also showing the inversely proportion, that is decrease in the velocity of enzyme activity. So if the product is not removed from the site of the enzyme activity, if it is kept as such, it is going to interfere with the enzyme activity and decreases the enzyme activity. Increase in product concentration, enzyme activity decreases. You can see in the bottom. So increase in product decreases the enzyme activity. So this is about the factor of product influencing enzyme activity. Next is the effect of temperature. Temperature is very important factor one should keep in mind when you are when we are talking about the human body temperature should be kept in homeostasis in the normal temperature. If increase in temperature, it is going to affect a body lot, uh, and how it is going to influence the enzyme activity we are going to discuss. Mainly the temperature will affect not only on the physiological functions but also on the biochemical functions of enzymes. Hence when one should maintain the normal body temperature for normal enzymatic activity. When the velocity of enzymatic reactions is measured at various temperature, keeping all other factors constant and only change in the temperature, and the graph is plotted with the x-axis with variation in the temperature and y-axis with the enzyme activity or rate of reaction, then you can see in the beginning with the decreased temperature, and it started with 10, 20, 30 in the x-axis, and going more than 40 for 50 like that. Once it reaches the optimum temperature, the enzyme activity is maximum, Vmax. In the human body, if you come across 97 degree or 37 degree Fahrenheit, 37 degree Celsius or 98 degree Fahrenheit, the normal body temperature, then the activity is maximum. Whenever it crosses above or below this temperature, then the enzyme activity decreases. So above the optimum also decreases, and below the optimum also it will decrease. If you see the middle line in the x-axis, which is touching the maximum curve, above this line or below, behind this line or front of this line, the enzyme activity is decreasing. That means below this temperature or above this optimum temperature, enzyme activity is going to decrease. So this is about effect of temperature on enzyme activity. Next one is effect of pH on enzyme activity. The pH is called as power of hydrogen, and we are having acidic pH, basic pH and neutral pH. The pH is also going to influence the enzyme activity. Plotting the pH in the x-axis with the 4, 8, 12, 14 like that. Also you can put a graph, and then in the y-axis you can have enzyme activity in the form of velocity, and at certain pH, based on the type of enzyme, if its optimum pH is reached, the enzyme activity or velocity is maximum. Above this pH or below this pH, the enzyme activity also decreases. So a enzyme having its optimum pH, it will show the maximum velocity. Above or below this optimum pH, the enzyme activity decreases. It is a bell shaped curve. You can see the curve is look like a bell, and also in the temperature also it is a bell shaped curve. Hence, maintaining the acid base level in the body is very important for the normal functioning of the enzymes. Next, we are going to discuss about concentration of inhibitors. Inhibit means stop. So there are certain factors which are going to stop the functioning of enzymes or inhibit the functioning of enzymes, and they are detrimental for the enzymes. As the concentration of inhibitor increases, enzyme activity decreases. In this, you can see the concentration of inhibitor, not a product. In the bottom it is inhibitor, written as product concentration, inhibitor concentration 5, 10, 20, 30, like that. You can put a graph, and then in the y-axis 10, 20, 30, 40. And if you increase the concentration of inhibitor in the x-axis, it is shown as product, but it is inhibitor. If the inhibitor concentration increases, you can see the enzyme activity also decreases. So increase in inhibitor decreases the enzyme activity. Hence, the inhibitor also plays a very important role in the enzyme velocity or rate of reaction. These factors which are influencing the enzyme activity is very important. One should know these factors, how it is going to influence the enzyme activity. We'll continue in the next session. Thank you.